go. Whoever shows up, let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumb if you can hear me, Kyle. All right, people showing up. All right. Hey, what's up, Pat? Adrian. All right. Mr. McNabb in the house. All right, cool. Randy. No, a lot of familiar faces, man. A lot of familiar faces. Cool. All right. So, see if I can get this to come. I'm trying to get it to come up on my computer so I can see the see any questions on there, but I'll probably just have to do it off my phone because it's not playing nice with me. All right. Well, let's get right down to it. Get to what the genesis of the post is about. All right. I'm sure people here, there's a lot of you that I recognize here that instruct anyway, that have heard it before. People ask, and it's usually, this is more for newer shooters, but it's also trying to establish, how do we look at an instructor as having, some sort of credibility, just in general. Okay, what are the things that I've looked at over the years? Because I've been doing this for a while, man. In all kinds of different venues, in the military and law enforcement, and then in private companies. So I've been around it a lot, and I've seen, everything from the best to the worst and all the stuff in between. So these are things that I've seen along the way that, because like when I hear about, do you know this guy? Okay. And I don't really know him. I'll start researching, saying, who is this guy? I'll ask around. I know pretty much everybody, and I'll try and figure out who they are. And this is where it all starts for me. Okay. First Special Service Force Cup for you Canadian brothers. First thing I look at is past performance or operational experience, if it applies. Okay. What have they done before? Okay. What body of work supports their ability to call themselves an instructor? Can I just call myself an instructor because I want to? Okay, yeah, I can. If I teach something, whether it's right or wrong, I can call myself an instructor. But am I a qualified one in any capacity? And I say that as somebody who's been to a bunch of instructor courses, like instructor development courses, and federal firearms instructor, federal air marshal instructor, and instructor courses in the military. And I've been through these instructor courses. And the truth is, they call them instructor courses because they have to call them instructor courses. They're actually instructor development courses. If they're a good course, they give you the opportunity to be taught by people that actually know how to instruct. That's not always true, okay? Just because you go to an instructor course that is intended to teach you how to teach doesn't mean that the people doing it are teaching you. But I digress on something different. Back to past performance and experience, okay? So operational experience, if it's applicable, okay? If you're going to talk about certain very specific combative type of things, then you should have at a minimum had a job where that was your a job where that was your primary emphasis. If you're going to talk about CQB, you should have at a minimum been a SWAT guy for a period of time where you actually did it as part of your job requirement, not just somebody that wants to talk about it or decided that you're going to teach it. Okay, that's pretty obvious. But again, the first thing I look at is past performance. What have you actually done? And how long did you do it for, and where did you do it, and what successes did you have? Were you good at it? And there's a lot just in that. Your past is prologue, man. Okay, what you did before speaks to who you are now. All right. So that's one of the first things I look at is past performance. Right. And the second thing I look at, and this is for people that are wanting to vet an instructor. They always talk about how can I vet my instructor, or how do you vet an instructor, or how do you know who a good instructor is? This is what I do. You do you, boo. But I'm just saying, first thing again is past performance. What have you done before that gives you any credibility in calling yourself an instructor? All right. 2, personal skill. All right. You have to have far in excess of that which you teach. in order to teach it, I believe. You gotta have much higher personal skills. Your desire to excel has to be really obvious. It has to be manifest to everyone. People should see you training. People should see you demonstrating that you actually can do this and do this as a way to maintain currency. Perfect example is obviously the shooting side. If that's the case, you should be competing, okay? And then that's actually point number 3. It kind of blends, so it's hard to keep them all at once. On the personal skill side, demonstrate everything that you teach, okay? Nothing is too small for you to demonstrate if you expect someone else to do it, all right? When you do that, here's something too that I see and I learned along the way, and some people get and don't get. A demonstration, okay, an instructional demonstration is not, it's not tryouts. It's not you trying to wow people, okay? It's you trying to show them what you want them to do at a pace that they can understand it and they can execute it. Now, that to me is really important, because if you set a crazy pace, there's something that you're just really good at. You know, it's part of your curriculum and it's easy for you, and you burn it down. 1, they can't really see what you did. And 2, they're going to mimic your pace before anything else. They're going to mimic the sound. I know that for a fact. I've watched it. I've done it. I've done it wrong. Okay? So the way that I do it is I'll shoot something. I'll shoot it technically correct at, 75, 80% of what I can do. And then I'll let everybody shoot it. And then at the end I'll go, hey, I'm going to hang it out. Let's see what I got. I'm going to go balls out and see what I can do. Okay? And then I push it. Okay? When you're instructing, to me, I hear a lot of people, they say it all the time, I want to show them what's possible. Okay? Show them what you want to do first. And then if you want to do the I'll show them what's possible thing, do that. And that's a whole nother discussion. The show them what's possible thing is kind of a mantra that it is not, to me, it's not nearly as effective as people want to believe. There's a lot more to it than that, but I digress on a different topic. Maybe I'll do something on the show them what's possible, get some people on there and we'll talk about it, because it's a good discussion, because I have different views on a lot of things, and that's one of them. And it's not completely opposed to it, but it's realistic. Okay. I'm above all a realist when it comes to this stuff, because I've done so much training over the years. Okay. When different, like I said, I started just the people that know, the people that don't know. I started teaching people at it, like professionally, meaning I had it as a job in freaking 1993, teaching conscripts with a 2nd grade education through an interpreter with freaking automatic weapons and pistols and shit. So it's like I started a long ass time ago in weird places working with people and in ways that I had to stumble through. I was fortunate that in Special Forces, there's basically an apprenticeship program. You have a senior weapons sergeant and a junior weapons sergeant. I was the junior, so I was a step and fetch it boy. I didn't get to teach anything. You just sit and watch and learn how to teach. And it was important. I learned how to write programs of instruction. I learned how to structure training, all of that at a formal level. And then we have an instructor training course in there. So it's like the military was a good place to get a good formal education, okay? And understanding how to present material, terminal learning objectives and enabling learning objectives and all that. Like, that is something that in the formal side is really, it's actually critical, because you learn the logical structure, okay? But that said, going back to personal skill, I don't believe that you have to do everything in a manner when you're demonstrating to prove that you're the best shooter on the range or wow people. There's an establishment of credibility. That's a fact. So when you're out there, you've got to push. You have to be good, legitimately. But if you are good enough to be out there, you should be able to shoot 80% of your max pace and shoot it clean and be far ahead of 95+% of the students. Okay, if you're doing your part, if you're training on your own, and so that personal skills part is really important. And also, when your personal skills are on point, not just training to teach what you teach, which I think is the wrong idea. Okay, just training to be good at the shooting piece, because this we're talking about shooting here. Okay, you could do anything. Okay, you can shoot whatever at your level. Whatever you're doing, you can do at a competence level that matches your overall skill. But what I mean by this is I'll be in classes all the time, and people go, well, what if we did it this way? Or what if we shot it that way? Or what about this? And I'll go, I don't know, man. Let me try. I'll do it. Let's see what comes out of it. Okay, and I'll shoot in front of them something I've never shot before in a way I've never shot it before. and I'm not worried about it. I know how to shoot. It may be faster, it may be slower, it may be more accurate, it may be less accurate, it may be more problematic. I don't know, but I'll do it in front of them based on my ability to execute on demand fundamental foundational skills. Okay, so to me, that personal skill part is hugely important. Okay, that was number 2. So we got past performance and personal skill. Those are important foundational things if you're looking for an instructor or you're an instructor. 3, compete in the discipline that you teach. Okay, it's not actually mandatory. I've met a couple of people that were really, really good shooters and really good instructors that don't compete. They honestly don't. But you know what they do? They train like they're going to compete. They train in performance-based shooting. Okay, so they're like an exception to policy. If you're a mill guy, you know what that means. They're like a one-off, but they're rare. Okay, it's hard for people to do that because it's difficult to divorce yourself from setting up stages that you know you're good at because you want to look good to yourself. Okay, that is a big step in your personal training journey. When you're by yourself, set up stuff to fail. Set up stuff you go, I suck at this. I'm going to set something up really hard, and then I'm going to remind myself how much I suck at this, and I'm going to get better at it. Okay? Just like pushing to failure. Okay? I've got a job coming up. It's the gig 43X for a specialized element, and dude, I'm pushing 43X with no compensator really hard, and it is difficult. It's a hard gun to shoot at the pace that I'm used to shooting my freaking staccato or my tricked out Glock, my Zev gun or whatever. And so it's one of those things that you have to be willing to do that, and you have to set the definition of success. I believe that's kind of a Joey Sauerland term. He said it but for me, like I was shooting some speed stuff, okay, yesterday with that 43X. It's like the definition of success is 50% A-zone hits, everything on paper, and whatever the specified time was. For me, it was a 25-yard string with a reload in it in 5.5 seconds. So I'm looking at anything under 5.5, 6 rounds, 3, reload 3, at 25 with a 43X, and I got to have 50% alphas and 3 on paper. I got to be able to print them. And it definitely, when you start pushing that gun at that pace, if anything goes wrong, everything goes wrong. But you've got to crave that. You got to look for that, and that goes along with the competition side. On competition, you've got to push and see what you're capable of. Okay, you'll learn way more than just the mechanics of shooting, competing. If you can push yourself in training like you would push yourself in a match, which I think is very difficult, then good for you. It's not a requirement, but I think it's an easy part of the feedback loop that you can access anywhere. Go shoot. You don't have to shoot every single weekend, twice a weekend, and spend a ton of money doing it because it's expensive. It's no joke. Like if you have another job and you have a family and you have kids and all that, it's like everybody talks that game, but when I start looking at who's talking the game, a lot of it is people that don't have kids and that live right next to a place that you can shoot at every weekend and all. So it's like there's some accessibility issues and there's some financial issues depending on what kind of family life you have. But you should compete. At a minimum, you should compete at least every quarter. I would say more than that. And when you're looking at people that instruct, you should see. I mean, I post stuff. I post me shooting stuff. Okay, I post matches and stuff like that. People see you shoot. They can tell a lot by how you shoot. When you shoot in a match, what does it look like? What I look at when I look at people in a match, I look at their gun handling, because the foundation of all shooting is gun handling. The first thing you should really learn is really good gun handling, and then you work the marksmanship piece. Because if you can't handle the gun rapidly and intuitively, then you're going to have a difficult time concentrating on the marksmanship piece. You're going to be worried about hitting the wrong button or lever or switch and making the gun go boom or drop a magazine or whatever. Like it just draws your bandwidth to something that it shouldn't draw your bandwidth to. That should be in the back of your brain. That should be subconscious. So gun handling, I can tell that just by looking at it. And so can everybody else. Even if they only know it intuitively. You can watch someone that's awkward and bumbling with a tool and someone that can make the tool do what they want. All right? And so it's pretty obvious. So again, now we got the first 3 things: past performance, personal skill, and competition. All right? I think those are all very, very important. Now we're going to get down to the actual, the instructional part of it. And this, what I put down, I'll read it damn near verbatim. Okay, depth of understanding at a principle and conceptual level. Without deep understanding, learned on your own personal shooting journey and refined over time, competing and instructing, you cannot effectively pass on physical skill-based knowledge, experience, and understanding. You will never be able to correctly diagnose a shooter and give them an actionable solution if you are not intimately familiar with the concept and principles and have worked through those mistakes on your own in your own personal training journey, okay? You have to have a depth of understanding. You have to have made all those mistakes and fixed them, okay? And if you haven't done that, you're gonna have a hard time, first of all, even recognizing them, all right? And if you haven't fixed them yet, how the hell are you gonna fix them with somebody else, okay? Fixing a mistake is a separate thing. Doing something technically correct is different from doing something really fast, okay? As you pick up the pace, you will make a version of the same mistake you made before, but it's exaggerated by speed, which you'll be able to recognize. And so it's not necessarily as speed related as you think, but you have to understand what the mistakes are, and you have to understand at a principle level, a very deep principle and conceptual level, what you're trying to accomplish, okay, and why. And so that is something that if you talk about grip, okay, how do you grip the gun? From a principle perspective and a conceptual perspective, it is pretty easy, okay? I'm holding the gun so that I can use the least amount of tension to stabilize that gun so it behaves predictably and it returns to my vision as rapidly as I can. There you go. Understand that. Now I have to watch you, or you have to watch me doing it and going, you still have too much tension, or you don't have enough tension, you're limp wristing the gun, you're actually relaxing. Every time you break a shot, you're relaxing. Well, how do I know that? Because I see the gun track and then stop in the air and then you bring it back down, right? These are things that you work through on your own when you're a newer shooter, and you can pick them out, okay? And so the difference, from a principle-based perspective, and I mentioned it in a different live before, the difference between a flinch, recoil anticipation, and tension. Those get blended together. If you don't know what each one of those is individually, then you can't diagnose them, and you can't give a solution to them that is actionable, okay? That they can actually do. And so again, that depth of understanding is based on your own journey, your own shooting, okay? It's that you're not going to get that going to somebody else's class and learning their stuff, which is a tangent I'm going to jump on real quick. If you go to most of the instructor classes that I see, okay, on the private side, are you going to a class with maybe a little bit more explanation, and you learn my method, and then you execute my method for me, and I tell you if it's good enough, okay? You're not learning how to teach, you're learning how to replicate my method and then pass it on to others, so I can say, this guy is teaching my method, okay? That to me is effectively worthless for you as a person going to the class, okay? You should be learning concepts and principles that you can apply as you see them based on your shooting skills and abilities and where you are on your own personal journey, okay, your shooting journey. So the whole idea, when I hear an instructor class, the classes that, like the post classes that are instructor classes, they have to say that for a reason, okay? They have to be called an instructor class. Trust me, I know that, okay? Any classes that I do, that I do instructor level classes, they're all instructor development classes, because that's exactly what it is. It's helping to develop an instructor. And it's a very, very detailed explanation of each thing we do. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How does it work? How much time do we have to do it? What are the most likely failure points or mistakes? How do we craft training to remedy that? Okay? That's how you start developing an instructor. You start teaching them what someone that has more experience than them, substantially amount more, what they look for, what they look at, little tricks that they've learned over the years. Okay? Setting up drills. How do you set up drills? You don't just throw something up that looks badass. That's not the answer. You look at a skill deficit and you go, okay, this is what we need to work on, this particular component skill. It's movement and setup, okay? So how am I going to isolate that and create a drill so that I can say, listen, are you getting better or worse? Are we making gains in your ability to move into position and get a shot off rapidly? And there are ways to do that, okay? But if you blend a bunch of things together, every other task will dirty up the other. If you're really fast at something and you're much slower at another thing, the fast thing and the slow thing will balance out, and the overall time will still be pretty good, but you won't be addressing the issue. And these are things that, as you learn, you look at drill construction, okay, that you start to realize that a lot of people just do these big ornate drills, and they're cool and they're fun to shoot, but you can't run people through them rapidly, and you can't really isolate one thing and go, from this point to this point, it took you X amount of time because your departure was slow or your setup was slow. And so on the instructional side, that stuff, that's a depth of understanding, okay, at a principle and a conceptual level of drills that you have to have if you want to have them be effective. And the more ornate the drill is, the longer it takes to do it. Like you can't run as many people through the drill in the same amount of time. You can run more iterations. You can make mild modifications to the drill, and then you can run 3 times instead of just once. And then they're standing around watching, which to me, idle time is complete waste. If you don't have that depth of understanding, what you end up with, or what someone ends up with, is just asking them to mimic what you're doing without really being able to explain it. And you're never going to be able to diagnose shooters. You just won't. Okay, I've seen people that didn't have a depth of understanding of what they did, who are actually pretty darn good shooters, but they couldn't explain it. They didn't know why it worked for them. They just know they kind of fell into it and it worked. So it's not just shooting skill, although, like I said at the beginning, shooting skill, a far above average level of shooting skill, is extremely important, because you have to be able to show people the correct answer and then critique them on it. But I've seen people that actually had really good shooting skill. They couldn't explain why. They literally couldn't. Okay. Here's another one that's I think this is subjective to a certain extent, but that said, it's important. And again, this is another one. Above average ability to communicate. Instructors should speak in a clear, concise, and unambiguous manner. If you cannot clearly articulate the principles and concepts, then you will not be able to make useful and actionable and, above all, understandable corrections. You will end up reducing yourself to asking someone to mimic your actions alone. Okay, if you don't speak clearly, there's the whole mental concept. We think in pictures, we turn pictures into words, we transmit them to somebody else, they take the words and they turn it back into pictures. We're trying to make the 2 pictures look the same. If you speak in a garbled manner, or you use ambiguous words or words that can mean 2 different things, that picture will never be the same. And you'll ask somebody to do something, they'll go, okay, and they'll do something different. Okay? It's got, the way that you articulate things has to be in the most simple and principle-based way. You've got to use the least amount of words, the least amount of large words, okay, so that they can understand what you're asking them to do without ambiguity. If not, if you don't speak clearly, it's going to be really hard for you to be a good instructor. It is, okay? Because everyone's like, what did he say? What is he asking me? Okay, but I thought you said do this. It should be very clear. And in my instruction, I made it a point to do it. Okay, it should be very, very clear exactly what I want you to do and why. I will tell you, this is what I want you to do, and this is why I want you to do it. It will remedy the following thing, and these are some markers along the way. You'll be able to tell if you're doing it correctly, because you will see or feel this, this, and this. And they go, okay. That is something that I've been doing for a while, and I was just talking to Pat. He's on here right now. Pat C. Hey, Mr. Camozzi. Anyway, he's a buddy of mine. Just jumped on it. Awesome dude. Anyway. Former bare knuckle world champion fighter and shit. Crazy dude. But anyway, I digress. When we were back when I was in my Army days, rest his soul, Mike Voigt used to come out, and he used to do a lot of rifle stuff with us. And he was singularly the best instructor that I had ever seen. The way that he explained things was always very simple. And again, it was clear, concise, and unambiguous. Everything he said was really obviously actionable. You look at it and go, okay, I get that. You say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and this is what it produces, and he would do it right in front of you, okay? And I've had other guys that came out there, were pro shooters that came out there and like, oh, okay, no, move your support hand like another degree forward. I'm like, bro, I'm not calibrated in degrees. I'm sorry. Like, it doesn't work like that for me. And so it's like, when you start getting so specific that it's not actionable, that it's like you're asking them to do something that they can't do or they don't understand, like a degree. I don't know what a friggin' degree is on my support hand. Like, tell me something else that I can act on. And so that's why the ability to speak clearly and to organize your thoughts before you say something to someone, because everybody knows if you teach someone the wrong thing, even accidentally, I'm not saying people are doing it on purpose, but if it comes out a little garbled, they misconstrue it because it is it is open to being interpreted two different ways, people will overwhelmingly interpret it the wrong way for some reason. It's just human nature. But now they've learned that. There's nothing there. You just put something in there. Now you have to record over. It's like a file on a computer. Just because you hit delete doesn't mean it goes away. You got to keep recording over it until it obliterates that file. And like everybody's heard it before, like it's hard to learn stuff. It's really hard to unlearn stuff and learn something over the top. Okay? And so you've got to be very conscious of what you say and how you say it. And in the absence of that, all you can do is have them mimic what you do, and that is completely ineffective. That is not the answer. Here's number 6. So look, I'll just recap each time. Past performance, personal skill, competition, depth of understanding. The depth of understanding is only going to come one way, and that's going to come from training on your own and working through problems and competing. Okay, that's really the only way you're gonna do that. Okay, at a certain point, the conceptual side of it has to be in practice. You have to do it, and like in theory is the same as practice. In practice, it's not. Okay, so when you do stuff, it ain't the same as when you think about stuff, and you have to go out and do it, and you have to screw it up. Okay, you got depth of understanding. We talked about that. Okay, above average ability to communicate. You have to be able to speak well. You have to. That's a job requirement. Okay, that's a job requirement. It's like being a race car driver and not being able to drive fast. Like you can't do it. It just ain't it. It ain't for you, bro. Okay. Number 6, the ability to easily field questions that are on topic, and that's a combination of 2 and 3. Okay, that's a combination of personal skill. All right, 2 and 4, personal skill and depth of understanding. You have to be able to field questions, and that's one of the things that good instructors, and I've seen a bunch of them, okay, do well. And not so good instructors do pretty poorly. Okay, you can ask someone something and say, okay, why do you do it this way? And they'll tell you, I do it for the following reasons. Got it. See them 3 months later and go, what was that? Why did you do that again? And they'll go, actually, the last time I saw you, I said this, this, and this, but I found something out and I modified it a little bit, and now I do it a little differently, but I do it this way. And that tells you their ability to field a question. They remember what they did. They remember what they used to teach. They remember that it changed, and they remember that there's been a gap between when you talk to them and now, and they tell you what the change was. That is a level of mastery in the ability to field questions, okay? If you can't field a question rapidly, and again, clear, concise, and unambiguous, then people asking questions will end up more confused, okay? They'll end up more confused. And that ability is critical. The fielding questions is crucial to instruction. You have to, because people, even if you say it as clearly and concisely and unambiguously as is humanly possible, they'll fade out thinking about refinishing their deck or getting their kid from soccer after the class or whatever, and they'll miss something and they'll go, wait a minute, do I understand this? Just be able to field that. Okay. In the fielding of questions, you also have to be able to listen to someone. Okay, and this is where instructor, the depth of experience comes into play. These are all the higher level nuanced things, okay? When you hear someone asking a question, okay, and I do this all the time, and like I said, the better instructors absolutely do this. I've watched you shoot for 5 hours, okay? I know the challenges you have. Even though I've got 12 people on a line, I know what everybody shoots. And I know what their challenges are. I know where their strengths are because I'm watching. I'm not just standing there, doing what I call a directed execution. I'm not just going, okay, drill number 4, go. I'm watching everyone. As I walk back and forth, I'm always walking back and forth up and down the line, and I'm looking at people. And if I give them a correction, the next time I come by, I want to see if they did it. Did it sync? Are they doing it correctly? All the rest. When someone asks a question, listen attentively and make sure that they are asking what they want to ask. And it sounds a little weird, but like I'll listen to people, and I know other people on here that teach a lot. I'll hear someone ask a question and I'll know before they finish what they want to ask, but they won't even ask that question. They'll stumble through it. They can't quite put it together because they don't have the experience you have. Like, I know what your challenges are. I know what you're struggling with. And you start the question, you give me enough information. I know where you're going to go with this, but you can't quite get there. Like the GPS all of a sudden shut off, and I'm like, hey, I go, wait a minute, are you talking? And I'll weave a way in and kind of interrupt and go, hey, are you talking about this and this? Yeah, okay. Oh, and this, and I'll basically pull the question out of them by stating it what I think it's going to be. And I'm usually 90+% right. it's just because I've watched them. It's not because I'm freaking Nostradamus or some shit. It's because I watched you shoot. I know the challenges you have, and when you bring up a certain topic, I can pretty much predict what you're going to ask me because it's something you're struggling with. And so the ability to field questions is not just you ask me a question and I can answer it. It's you try to ask me a question and I have to clarify it for you. But that's why they're coming to you. Okay, I clarify the question and then I go, is this what you're asking? Yes, okay, and then we deal with it. But that is hugely important. It's hugely important to be able to field questions. And I've watched a lot of people that can't field questions, and that is really detrimental. That's detrimental to the confidence of the student. Like they don't really, I don't know. If it's something out in left field, it's like, I actually don't know that. And you can say that right out, but it better be a rarity. If it's on topic and I'm instructing, it is really freaking rare for someone to ask me a question that I don't know the answer to. Okay? It's just because I spend a lot of time. I've spent a ton of time instructing people for freaking, like I said, I started in 93, okay, in the military. But I make it a point every time I hear something like, oh, I haven't heard that question before, I'll jot it down. I'll put it in my phone or something like that so that I can look at it and go, wow, I didn't see that one coming, but that's a good question. Okay? It's important. It's important enough to me to not be caught flat-footed that I will do that each time and I will remember it. So, I mean, that to me, that's important. That's, the ability to field questions. It's hugely important. Okay? So past performance, personal skill, competition, depth of understanding, above average ability to communicate, ability to field questions. The next one. This is one that I see that's just, it's human nature, but it's got to be, Roberto, I'm only going to answer this because I just saw it. What topic have you changed your mind about over your many years of instructing? I've the emphasis that I put on teaching reloads and malfunctions. I've changed that. I've basically, unless you have a problem with it, I might, if I see the group has a problem with it, like malfunctions, because it's so simple now. I used to teach a render safe class to special operations. And it was how to basically, it's a battlefield recovery class actually, how to pick up any weapon system and make it run. AKs, PKs, VZ-58s, G3s, freaking Sten guns, whatever, FNFALs, all that. And in doing so, they also had to take them apart, put them together, do malfunction clearance, all that. And I put too much emphasis on it. And there wasn't really, it was important to certain people who were in instructor billets in law enforcement agencies to know malfunctions at a detail level and all that. But overall, it wasn't as efficient a use of time as I could use. And so I cut that down to what it is now, which is as simple as it can be. Tap rack. If that doesn't work, unload the gun, make sure it's clear, which is remedial action, and then finish it up with tap rack. So it's tap rack at the beginning or the end. The only difference is tap rack is always the answer. The only difference is if it takes remedial action, you got to unload the gun and make sure it's clear, which is basically starting from scratch and reloading the gun. But I remove that, and then malfunctions, or not malfunctions, but reloads, I'll do that on an individual level, and because it takes time that I would rather be shooting. And if someone is stumbling through a reload, I would rather them have the opportunity to be watched and critiqued shooting than doing a reload, because they can do all the reloads dry. So there you go. Anyway, I digress. Hope that's, Roberto, I hope that covers it for you. Okay. The overgrip and the firing hand, I'll get back to that in a second because we're almost done. All right, 7 was ability to field questions. Here's one that people do a fair amount. And it's teach what you know the student needs, not what you like to do or how you like to be taught. It's not about you, it's about the student. I hear people say, well, I teach the way I like to teach. I like to be taught. It's not about you. It ain't your course. It's their course that you administer. So teach people what they need to know. I don't teach a certain way or, specific emphasis. I teach what people need based on what the curriculum is covering. If we're doing concealment stuff, I look at what they need the most and I make sure that I'm tailoring that. There's a framework that I teach off of. Yes, absolutely. But I just don't teach what I like to teach. Okay? I teach what I believe that they need. And I adjust that as necessary. So teach to the student. Don't teach this is my shtick. This is drills 1 through 6, take a break for lunch, drills 7 through 12. No, that's not it, okay? Give them the product they are paying for, not the product you feel like teaching, okay? And that to me is important because I see a lot of that. I call it directed execution. I just run a battery of drills and at the end of the day, we're good. Like, no, you should be learning something at a principal level. You should be getting concepts that you can take back with you to train yourself on. That's what the best instructors that I've ever been around did. And like I said, Mike Voigt was, rest his soul, Mike Voigt was probably the finest instructor I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody that could speak more clearly, use less words, and say more than him. And he would be talking to you like I'm speaking now and demonstrating at the same time and with an unbelievable level of proficiency. All right. Number 8, patience and positive nature. I see some people kind of bark at students, and they're not bad shooters. It's just their personality. Well, freaking check yourself, okay? They're trying to learn from you. And if they're failing at that, unless they don't care, which is doubtful if they're paying to come to your class, it's on you. It's overwhelmingly an instructional deficiency. So give words of encouragement where they're due. It's not everybody doesn't get a trophy and everybody doesn't get a pat on the bum. I get it. But give encouragement where it's warranted. It will motivate people. And I've seen it work really well. And I've had people come up to me and say, man, I don't know if you really meant that, but it really helped me because it made me feel confident or whatever. Hey, the mind is the most important part of the whole process. And if the mind is saying, I can't do this, or I'm not making any headway, and you can give it a little bump and push in the other direction, freaking doesn't cost you anything, man. Like, get off the grumpy freaking pants shit. I just don't do that. I don't. Like I said, I'm not a pat everybody on the bum, everybody gets a trophy guy either. But if somebody is struggling and I see them get a breakthrough, I'm going to tell them, good job, that's what we want. I want them to know that they're going in the right direction. A little bit goes a long way with that. This is to be snarky, but just because your dad never, gave you words of encouragement doesn't mean it was the right answer. I grew up that way, just straight up. My dad never encouraged me for anything. Everything. I got a 96 on a chemistry test once in high school, and I told him, and I was excited. He goes, "Well, if you had studied harder, you could have gotten 100." That's how I grew up, and it sucked. Straight up, it sucked. Okay, and it wasn't the right answer. It wasn't what needed to be said at the time. Okay, 96, I had the highest grade in the class. But you know what? It stuck with me because I was like, I'll never do that. I'll never be that guy, ever. Because it doesn't serve. It doesn't help anybody, okay? give them their sunlight, man. Help them get better. Convince them that they can get better even when they don't believe it, all right? Here's number 9. If you're looking at an instructor, they're constantly teaching their signature version of something that nobody else teaches, okay? Or they're hawking swag or cost codes or telling stories or talking for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes about anything, okay? That is a problem, okay? 1, you shouldn't have a signature or anything. It should be principle-based, and nobody owns the principles, okay? They don't. And if nobody else teaches it, there's probably a reason for that. Hawking your swag and cost codes and all that stuff, just stop it. It's just trashy, honestly. I think it's trashy. People pay good money to come to your class. Just teach, okay? If you got a website at the end, you want to go, hey, you go on the website, there's swag and stuff, that fine. But in the conduct of the class, if you're hawking your wares, that's not it. And if you're talking a bunch in your blocks of instruction, block of instruction should be 5 minutes. If it's really, really detailed, it might get close to 10 minutes. If it's over to 10 minutes, you're losing people. People are just drifting away. And that's not what you want. You're better off giving a 5-minute block or a 3-minute block, have them shoot a little bit, break them for a second, go, hey, let's do this now. And you basically break the instruction into 2 blocks. And that way you maintain their attention span, because people will drift away, especially when you get to the end of the day, especially when you're teaching a summertime class when it's hotter than the hinges of hell. People are like, oh my God, I just want a freaking ice cold beer and, some chicken wings in an air conditioned freaking pub. Like we all say. All right, so you make sure that when people are talking for a long period of time, it's either filler or they just want to hear themselves talk, and that ain't it. That is not it. So you want clear instructions, you want proper demonstrations, ask for questions, and get to shooting. That's it. Okay, say what you want them to do. Okay, this is what we're going to do. When I do stuff, I'll walk through. I'll go, this is what I want you to do. I'll literally walk through it. Then I'll come back. Go, okay, I'm going to shoot it. I'll shoot through it. And then I'll ask her, are there any questions? I go, all right, get online. Or get in front of them, if we got stages, little mini stages, I'll have everybody get up there. But like I said, I'll walk through it so you know. I'll shoot through it. I'll explain it, walk through it, shoot through it. And when I walk through it, I'll explain it as I walk through it. So I explained it twice. Then I'll shoot through it. And then usually if it's a little mini stage, I'll say, hey, everybody just do a walkthrough. Okay? Again, legacy of competition shooting. Let them do a walkthrough. We're not trying to trip anybody up. I want you to know what you're doing. I don't want you to get lost in the sauce halfway in between because you forgot that you have to go back from, box B back to the top and shoot the steel, whatever. Okay, so, but it doesn't take a bunch of time, but it gives you better performance. If you're talking for 30, 60 minutes about, about grip or explaining doubles, then just shoot. Like there's less talking, more shooting. And grip will remind me, where's that at? Scar's dad, 33. Question, what would you give advice to someone who's struggling with over gripping the firing hand? There's something that I do in every class, and people that have shot with me know it. We do a grip exploration block before we do doubles, and then it's actually in conjunction with doubles, where I tell you, hold on to the gun like grandma's handshake, okay? Just barely hold on to the gun. And what I want you to hold it with a level of tension where you're 95% sure that the gun won't fall out of your freaking hand, but you're 95% sure it's going to break your grip. Start there, and then just start incrementally adding a little bit of grip tension, because every one of us that was taught more than 5 years ago, probably. Okay, maybe some newer shooters have been taught correctly from the get-go, but it's pretty rare unless you had a very progressive, shooting coach. We were all taught to overgrip the gun, crush grip, crush the gun, crush it like you're trying to squeeze the bullets out of the bottom. That's not it. And if this is the center, this is perfect. This is the perfect grip tension. We're way over here on the too much tension side, and we should be back on this side. We should be on the less tension side. Okay, under grip the gun and then work your way back to the optimal grip. Okay. If you stay with over gripping it and you try and work your way back, you will always over grip the gun. And the minute you go fast, the natural intuition is to add more tension onto the gun, and it will bring tension into it. So now your grip will get too tense and your body will tighten up and you'll do crazy shit on the gun. Everybody does it. We all do it. We're always fighting with tension, especially as we start to go fast. So to work on your grip, go all the way to like very, very, very little tension, and then work your way back. Add a little bit of tension, add some speed. Okay, I need a little more tension, add some speed. You keep working back, but it's an exploratory thing, because your grip is your grip. There is no one size fits all. So that's what I would do. Hope that answers your question, bro. Let's see. So here's the last one, and then I'll look for more questions, okay? Number 10, do their classes evolve, or are they the same from year to year outside of minor curriculum changes? Shooting has evolved dramatically over the years, and if the curriculum is overwhelmingly the same from year to year, that individual is not evolving with new best practices, okay? The reason I'm reading this is because I'm going to post it after this along with this live. If the training that you take is formulaic, okay, meaning it's just drills, it's directed execution. I do the following things, and then, we take lunch, and then I do the following things, and it's the same curriculum. If you took it last year or this year, it's the same class with the same curriculum, with the same jokes, with the same, obligatory pause for laughter and all that. Dude, they're selling you like a prefabricated thing, and they're not evolving, and they're not adjusting their curriculum as they learn new things, because either they don't want to, or, they're like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which I think is a really bad way to do it in this industry, because things progress so rapidly and things change and people have different ideas and concepts, because this is now a sport where people are pushing for speed and accuracy and precision and all the rest, like it's an Olympic sport, which it's becoming basically. And you have to be pushing, you have to be adapting. And if your curriculum stays the same, I don't think I've ever, unless they were like weeks apart, I don't think I've ever taught two courses that even were probably 80% the same, because there's always something new I learn. I modify a block, I shorten one, I lengthen one, I add something in, because it's constantly evolving. You should be constantly getting better at it, refining it, making it more condensed. So if they're doing the same thing year after year, if it's the same course every time, it's probably not what you need, honestly. So recap on this. All right, so we got past performance, okay? What experience allows you to be called an instructor? What have you done? What's your body of work that you can look back and go, okay, because I can point to stuff that I've done throughout my career. And like I said, I did this, this, and this. I stood up this, I stood up this. I was head instructor here. I can point to things. You may or may not look at them as good, valid, or whatever. That's immaterial, but I at least have something to point to. If you just woke up one day and decided you wanted to shoot guns and you got pretty good at it, and now you're an instructor because you took a whoever class, instructor class, I don't know, man. That's a lot to hang a big chunk of change on if you're going to go, get training from them. Okay, personal skill, you got to be good. You have to be good. You have to be well above average. And people go, well, put a number. What does that mean? Does that mean, does that mean GM? Does that mean A class? Does that mean master class? It's like you have to have a high level of skill. There are A class guys that beat GMs. There are M class guys that get beat by B class guys that are about to be A class. Like it doesn't, it's so, the way the classification system works and the way things are changing now, you just have a high level of skill. And if that person posts video of them competing, you'll be able to tell. Okay, you'll be able to tell. But generally speaking, if you look at it as a general thing, they should be high A class and above. Okay, they should be a legitimate, like on the verge of master class or above. I think that gives you at least a unit of measure that you can bank on. On the personal skill side, they got to compete. I really believe that. You can get away with it if you have all the other stuff, like you train super hard on your own and you use competition style training and you push yourself like you're training for a sectional or a regional or a nationals. But that's really hard to do. It's really hard to do unless you've experienced that, unless you do shoot competitively, and then it feels natural. Okay, I'm going to try and replicate this. Okay, I'm going to try and do it faster. So that personal skill part is really important. The competing part obviously is important. Depth of understanding. You got to think about this a lot. This has got to be like, you should be constantly thinking of better ways to explain things or have a deeper level of understanding. That's important, right? The ability to communicate, speak clearly. Think about what you want to say before you say it. If you have to go through things in your mind and rehearse answers so you at least understand them, now you have a foundational answer for this, and you can adapt off of that. It's going to help if it just doesn't come naturally. And that over time, that it just becomes part of the way you think, because you've answered the question so many times that you can answer it in your sleep and it's almost verbatim. Ability to field questions, obvious. To teach to the students, teach what they need, not what you like to teach. It doesn't matter what you like to teach. It matters what they paid for and what they need. All right. Be patient and throw a compliment out every once in a while. Don't be a freaking Scrooge about it. It doesn't hurt you any. All right. And then beware of people that are teaching anything signature. Like I'm the only guy that does it this way. Be really conscious of that. And people that are constantly trying to sell you stuff, trying to tell you freaking t-shirts and underwear and hats and all that when you're in class. It's like, that's not what you paid for. If they have all that stuff on their website, they can just say, hey, you go on my website, I have all the swag and stuff there. But pimping that stuff at a class to me is kind of classless, honestly. Demonstrate everything, obviously. Demonstrate everything that everything you want them to do, you have to demonstrate. If you don't, then don't be surprised when they don't do what you wanted them to do because they didn't get to see it. And then, like I said, my strategy for demonstration is I'll walk through it and talk through it. Okay, I'll explain it, then I'll walk through it, and I'll talk through it while I do the walkthrough, and then I'll shoot it, and then I'll ask them if there are any questions, and and then I'll let them do a walkthrough. It's like I said, it's right out of shooting competitively. And then the evolution. Do their classes evolve? Do they change? Do they change what they teach and basically upgrade it? So. That is that. Let me see. I'm gonna look for any questions that I didn't. Asset training. Yeah, I posted a SIT. I'll probably post another one because I've got a Gen 2 version of it that's actually harder. The old one is all facing the target. The Gen 2 has turns and everything, but the two 10-yard stages where your gun's at low ready. So I made it harder. So I'm actually going to probably post that one here in the next probably 10 days because I just came up with it. Pat and I talked about it and came up with it. So, but I have posted me shooting it, and I'll post another one just to double tap it. Let's see if I can find any more questions. What have we got here? I don't have any classes in Tennessee coming up because I don't have a POC there. I don't know any ranges there. A lot of the classes are people request them. But if you have this is Brian Ferg 91. If you've got a range and you believe that there's interest in there, shoot us an email through the website, and we'll start leaning on calling people and setting it up. Yeah. Let's see. What was the biggest change you had in the last year or so? Biggest change in the last year or so? I would say the biggest change in the last year or so is how, and that's actually a good question, is how I view the commonalities and the differences between performance-based shooting for law enforcement and USPSA shooting. Okay, like people teach a USPSA class to cops, and that's not necessarily the right answer. Okay, there's a lot of crossover, 90% probably, but there are some things that do not cross over, and they're really obvious to me with a couple things that happened. I mentioned it on another live where I watched a guy shoot a no shoot on a classifier and still get a 96, still get a GM classifier with a no shoot. He did everything else friggin' perfect, like on fire. Yes, got it, but he shot a no shoot and he still got a grandmaster score. For a cop, you shoot the wrong person. It doesn't matter what you did. You can save 3 nuns, 4 infants, and 3 kittens from a freaking, from an active shooter, but you shot Mrs. Wilson in the stomach, you failed. And so there's some different variables involved in it. Comic nav, actual. What does your instructor development course look like outside of going to classes? Was my personal instructor development look like? Me, there's a circle of us, like, I'm buddies with Matt. I talk to Matt, talk to Ben. I talk to different people. I ask them stuff. I discuss things offline. I come up with certain things and I bounce them out of them. Like, hey, this is something I'm looking at. Murder board it. Tell me what's wrong with it. Like, poke holes in it. That's the way you do it. You don't ask somebody to agree with you. You ask somebody to disagree with you and tell them why you're crazy. I push things on the curriculum side. I try to make things more efficient. I try to do more in a shorter period of time or with less ammo or both, so we can go further on the skill set. So I'm always looking for an addition to something that makes it more useful for the client in the shorter period of time. There's people, my patrons, the people that go to the classes, like the SIT, adding in turns. That changes that whole test because you can shoot that test. Okay. I've shot it clean and I missed by point, was it 2? It was 0.09. I posted, I missed by like 0.09 seconds to have level 1 across the board. My hit factor was outstanding and all that. But as soon as I can shoot a perfect score and I'm less than 1/10 of a second off of level 1 across the board, then I make it harder. Okay. So the minute I can do something, it's no longer valid. I make it harder. Because so I'm looking to upgrade constantly. But on the instructional side, just me personally, I'm researching, I'm watching, I'm listening, I watch everybody teach. Everybody that I think is worth a damn, that speaks well, I'll watch them teach. How are they approaching this conceptually? How are they approaching it practically? What did they say? What points did they emphasize in the same topic? If I were teaching it, what points did they emphasize that I didn't emphasize, and why? And do I know? And if I don't know, I'll ask them. I'll go, hey, why do you put so much emphasis on this? I'll send them a DM, and every one of them will be like, oh yeah, because I think this is more important than that. Okay, cool. It's like, and it'd be like, I do it a little differently, but I see your point. I mean, that's a good, that's a good way to approach it. But it's got to be interactive, and you've got to be humble about it in a sense. You got to, like, the whole leave your ego at the door. Everybody's got an ego to a certain extent. Got it. But the bottom line is, you should be emotionally attached to the best answers, not to your answers. Just find the best answers and then say, hey, this is my answer now until I got a better one. But it's it's to me, that's how you keep progressing as an instructor. Be inquisitive, and I do that. I just love shooting. I love, like, how can you get better at this sport by being smarter at it? What am I missing mentally that because physically, it's not as physical as people think. It's not just, oh, this person's a super athlete, they're Usain Bolt, so they can do it faster than everybody else. It's not necessarily that. It's what you see and how you use your vision and all the rest, and how to get people to do that, how to explain what they're supposed to see. So that's what I do on my own personal instructor development. I talk to every other instructor that I can that does something different than me, and I ask them, why they do it, and then I say, this is what I do. What do you see? Do you see that being? Do you see a flaw in that? I'll ask them to criticize that. I don't ask for compliments. I don't need a pat on the bum. None of that. I want to know where I'm wrong so I can fix it right away. So I think that's really the only way. I hope that answers it, Kyle. Biggest change your class has already covered that. Yeah, that's Randy. That's cool. The dry fire side of it. That's something that I've done. That I've added in over the last year, really, maybe a little longer, is dry firing in class, dry firing drills beforehand, having guys dry fire it first. Especially do that on some of the critical blocks, like on an LE class when we start working on speed out of a level 3 duty rig. Just do it dry. Just spend 5 minutes doing it dry, and you figure in 5 minutes you're talking about 30 to 50 draws from concealment, or not from concealment, from a level 3. That's a huge, primer for the drill coming up. All right. And I'll do that when I have them dry fired. I'll do it on a timer with a par time. So I'm like, hey, got to be under 1.5 seconds. That's like the slowest you should be drawing from a level 3 on demand with a timer. And then we'll do that for 5 minutes. And then when they get on live, they have no problem with it. And no problem getting under 1.5. So there are certain drills that I will add dry fire, which is that's a good reminder, Randy. Thanks for posting that in a comment. Let's see what else. This is a shame. Advice on individuals in a unit that don't buy into providing quality instruction. I don't even understand why. I mean, if you're in an organization that carries a gun for a living, I don't understand why that wouldn't be important. I mean, I've seen places that don't put an emphasis on it because nothing happens, or it's a cultural thing, but it's hard for me. I would have to sit down with somebody and just say, why do you not take this seriously? Like, why is this not important to you? Because this is a life or death thing. You can screw up everything else. The things that you can't screw up as a copper are shooting, driving, and medical. Those 3. Okay? That's what, medical, you're usually, fixing somebody else besides yourself. But, if you get clipped, you're fixing yourself. But shooting and driving is where people get freaking jacked, especially driving. But they put a lot into that because driving, accidents and injuries are much more prevalent. And they still don't put that much into driving. I was on a mobility team. I drove with the high performance driving schools and stuff. And so when I watch people drive, I'm like, I don't know if that's the thing. But I don't know how, outside of sitting down on a one-to-one basis, but it's all personality driven. People that don't want to do it are usually isolated from it. They're usually in the front office. You're the suits, and the suits are like, well, that's a lot of money, and our budgets are tight and all that. But they'll pay out a lawsuit if somebody makes a mistake ballistically. So, yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to deal with. I'm starting to see more organizations that are more receptive to it, but we still got a long way to go. I'm glad that covered what you're looking for, Kyle. Blind in my left eye due to retinal detachment. Curious if you have tips for pistol shooting. I will tell you this, Brian Ferg 91. I have had to work through the challenges with with a dot more than anything else. It didn't make any difference for me with iron sights. It made no difference. I was slower, honestly. I lost speed when I lost an eye. I did. And a lot of that too has to do with periphery. If I am, this is my good eye. If I'm shooting and there's a target, my next target's on my left, I can already see it. If I'm shooting, my next target's on my right, I don't see it until I turn. So it's had spatial effects, and I've had to adjust things that I do and be better on my stage strategies because of that. But iron sights, the shooting piece was, and I shot with both eyes open. And when this one was real, well, it's real, but it's Lexan. But when it was my original eye, I had 20/10 in that eye, really strong 20/10. So I could shoot with both eyes open and not see a ghost image. I shot iron sights that way. Didn't bother me. But now what I have to struggle with is I can't do dot occlusion as a practical thing. I can do it as a circus trick. I can put there and I can put the dot in the top of the window and look over the top. I can do some crazy shit, but it's not useful for me. So I have to look through the tube, which means I have to conquer the whole dot fixation thing. I have to, and I found that I use my dot at a much lower level than most people. It's way lower, and I don't have a problem with it. But what I don't want is I don't want it to grab my attention. I don't want it to grab my vision. So that's what I've struggled with more than anything, and I've gotten past it to where I've gotten pretty good with that. But you got one eye, man. You deal with it. You deal with it the way you can. But I think that's the emphasis on If you're using a red dot or if you're using iron sights, it shouldn't make any difference. If you're using a red dot, the emphasis that I put on is having the dot the lowest you can have it and still have it be very usable. Hope that helps, man. Let's see what we got here. All right. Okay. All right. I don't even know what you're saying, Josh Logan, Guardian, about report writing and testifying. Report writing and testifying doesn't keep people killed. Guns, cars, and bad medical practice do. If your instructor can't shoot a sub 2 second bill or shoots worse than you disregard them. I don't know if you disregard them. I'd have to know what they're shooting from. I think from doing it, shooting sub 2 second bills out of a legit level 3 with a duty gun is noticeably harder than shooting it out of a sport rig. It is. I could take the same gun out of my sport rig and I'm a freaking ton faster. I can get 2 second bill drills out of a level 3, but it's a lot more challenging. I think that you can't pull out one drill and say this gives or doesn't give. If everything that they do is not at a high level, and it's if they're shooting a bill in 210 versus 2 seconds, that's different than if they're shooting a bill in 261 versus 2 seconds. Okay, so there's a lot more context to that. But I wouldn't pick out one drill and say they can't do that. They can do this or they can't do that, or they're good at this or they're not good. So you'd have to see the totality of the shooting capability of that guy, along with their ability to instruct and get people where they need to go. And also understand that who is their target audience? This class or somebody who's a bill drill guy? I don't know. So I would be guarded about picking one thing out like that. I mean, I think you should be able to do it. I mean, it's work, but it's definitely doable out of a level 3. Out of a regular open top rig, I don't think it's that hard. Honestly, I don't think bills are very hard. I mean, getting in the 180s and 190s. If you have a good proper draw and presentation, you're already shooting on the way out. Now, if you want to make a bill drill spicy, do a 90-degree turn into a bill drill and see what your time is, because it's a lot different. Because a lot of people that are shooting bill drills, their first shot is body indexed. They're basically point shooting. That gun is below their line of sight. Obviously there are those that don't. There are those that have a really good index and all that. But most people are shooting on their way up. They haven't seen the dot yet. They got a follow through sight picture on their first shot. And because I watch tons of people shooting bill drills. But compact class in North Tech. We at Nixon, we have any plans to come back and do a micro compact duty LE class in North Texas again. Just need a venue. I'm doing a couple classes. I'm doing 3 or 4 classes in in TTPOA Region 7, Region 5. But jump on the website and just shoot us a message and arrange, and we'll start doing it. As long as we have interest, we'll be there. That's what I do, man. That's what I do. Tips for first time start competitive shooting. Hopefully you're still here, Slay Hitter. Dude, just go do it. Don't worry about speed. Worry about just going through a match. Don't break the 180. Don't get DQ'd or anything like that. Don't worry about going fast. It's your first time around. Nobody cares. Everybody's glad you're there. Honestly, I've never seen somebody look at a new shooter and go, "Oh, I can't believe he came here," and he's not already a GM or whatever. They'll want to help you. They will want to help you. And so just go there and say, "Hey, listen, I'm just going to walk through this and shoot what I shoot." We have them in Utah all the time where I shoot a big salty. There's these guys that are brand new guys with this freaking Amazon, $28 Glock holster and a stock Glock 19 with plastic sights and, 3 nylon pouches. And hey, man, everybody's like, "Good job, come on in." They'll welcome aboard, come shoot with us. So just go do it. You just go do it and understand that it's going to be challenging initially, but it's fun. And the people are going to help you out. I honestly, I've never been to a match, and I've been to a bunch of them. Never been to a match where a new shooter was anything but welcomed in and helped. I've never seen them ostracized or any of that stuff. So just do it, man. Do it and be conscious of just All you want to do, the first thing you want to do is make it through, make sure you shoot all the targets, and don't get DQ'd. That's it. And that's not hard to do. Just don't outrun your headlights. But it'll be fun, and you'll be hooked. One or two, and you'll be hooked. Let's see what else. See if we see anybody else. All right. I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. I just feel Roberto saying I've struggled with imposter syndrome being an instructor. Thankfully, I checked all blocks. I think to a certain extent, all of everyone that works hard, that pushes hard, has a tinge of that in some way or another. You're always like, man, am I really that guy? Am I like? You're always questioning yourself. You're your hardest critic, and that's where that comes from. It's not unique to you, man. Everybody fights with it because you. My big thing for my whole career, and it came from, like, you know, Gunnery Sergeant Duke at 2nd Recon. Be as advertised, man. Be as advertised. That's the goal. Whatever that is, whatever you say you are, be that guy. Okay? Don't overpromise. Don't underpromise. Just say who you are and be that guy. And so that's all I've ever done and tried to do since then. It's just be as advertised, and then you know what you're getting. Okay, if it's more than you expect or less than you want, you still know what you're getting. So yeah, don't let that feeling, you know, get under your skin, man, because it's not, you ain't the only one, and it's just be as advertised, man. Just be able to perform the things you say you can. All right, that looks like it, and we're an hour, a little bit over an hour. Anyway, thanks for popping in. I just threw that stuff out there again. I just recap it because for people that come in at the end or whatever, there's a bunch of stuff that to be an instructor, just calling yourself an instructor doesn't make you an instructor. Going to an instructor course doesn't make you an instructor. Okay, it is a ton of time standing in front of people, explaining things, demonstrating things, critiquing them, all that. And it comes, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw stuff up. You're going to screw up demos. You're going to, you know, you're going to monumentally screw up demos. Everybody does. Shit happens. Okay? That's the way it goes. That's the price of admission. But in the long run, that's the only way that you get truly good at it. You have to do it. You can't shake and bake and be an instructor. And just because you can shoot well doesn't mean you're a good instructor. I have gone to classes with people that are exceptional competitive shooters, and their classes were not good. They weren't, honestly. And I have heard people ascribe a level of shooting skill to instructional capability. Well, he's such and such, so he's got to be good. I'm like, that's not actually the case. That's not always true. It isn't. I mean, it is more likely, yes, because they're at a high level. But it's not necessarily true. And then I've heard people talk about you can only learn from someone that is better than you. It's like, is Tiger Woods' swing coach better than him? No. Is any strength and agility trainer in the NFL stronger and more agile than the people he's training? No, he's not. Is any tennis coach that coaches an international level tennis player, male or female, are they better than those tennis players? No, they're not. This is the only sport where we ascribe that. Okay? Coaches for biathletes, are they better than the biathletes they're coaching? No, they're not. Okay? Were they biathletes before? Yeah. Were they really good before? Could be. Are they better than the people they're coaching? No, they're not. So when we start ascribing just pure shooting skill to instructional capability, just think about that from a different perspective. You do with it what you want, but understand that in professional sports, there is nary a freaking coach that is better than the people he's coaching. Okay? So, just something to think about. Anyway, been great, been real. Time for me to grab something else to drink and go to bed. Peace out.